Okay. We'll get our recording going. So glad you came today. And lots of love to you too, Maggie. Glad you're here. All right, awesome. Welcome to our circle call for October. I feel like we just talked like yesterday. So October sped by. It's been a beautiful, interesting, and very important month. I'm sure for all of you, it's been that way as well. And so I have some beautiful, important things to talk to you about today. As usual, I'm going to bring you into the personal, and we're going to move from the personal into the universal, right? So we want to always move from the personal to the universal, and that's part of mysticism. So we're mystics in training. We're all spiritual scientists here. How can we turn our amazing personal experiences into a connection to the divine and the universal? That's always my question. As a galactic quantum anthropologist, that's what I want to know. How do we turn this human experience into a universal connective experience that brings us into galactic consciousness? That's the job. So over this past month, I've had a birthday, and it was a very special birthday. I got to spend it in Hawaii. And honestly, I've never been to Hawaii, and I'm so glad I got to go. I was very, very blessed to have someone who wanted me to mentor them. And they brought me there in person to help them, mentor them through an entire week. And it was very special. And so I just am in deep gratitude for that, because it's one of the most memorable experiences of my life. So part of it was on my birthday, I love to give gifts. So we had this little potluck, and I said, just invite all your friends and I'll give them readings. So we had all these wonderful people show up to this little party, and I got to give people readings, and it was super special. One of the people I gave a reading to was an 84-year-old woman, and it was such a true honor to be able to speak with her in that way and give her insight into things that she really wanted to know. And from the end of that, I received a beautiful blessing from her, because she knew that, hey, when we're out here in public disclosing the true nature of our experiences, which is a multidimensional galactic experience, and it's not just a 3D experience, it's not just an earthly experience. When we do that, we are putting ourselves at risk. We're coming out with real disclosure. There's no reason for us to hide this any longer. Yes, there's censorship and all that stuff, but you know what? The internet has brought global consciousness online, and literally, and now of course it's a spiritual fact that we're all connected as one human species. And so from there, the next step is to have a galactic mindset. And many people, all of you, count in bringing that to the forefront, because that's what it's going to take for humankind to get out of this rut, to get out of the hatred, to end the wars. We must take our place at a galactic table. And that's going to be very important for our evolution. So when I'm looking at that, that's part of the experience that I saw, was a blessing from that generation. And she said, go forth, do this work. You're doing the right thing. Little did I know that was a foreshadowing for something deeper and more personal, which of course is never just personal. Meanwhile, I got some healing done on my body and was able to find very clearly that, hey, I haven't really been in my body. Part of it was because I was a C-section baby. I think I didn't get to experience that hugging into my body through the birth experience. And so that definitely made a difference, I think. in how I've not been able to tell if I've been in my body or not. Then, of course, I've always thought, well, my body's just painful. Why would I even want to be in it? Because I've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So I was actually with a healer there who pointed out that every single one of my fingers was dislocated and was subluxed. And for how long, I have no idea, probably years. Years my fingers have been dislocated. So she put them back in and they don't hurt, not even close to how they hurt before. But that experience saying, I really feel like being in this human body has been really painful. Not only the trauma, but the physical part, and all of us can relate to that. Then another event, I actually got to go snorkeling for the first time. And hey, you know what? I've been really afraid of deep water all these years. I always imagine literally like a giant megalodon coming to eat me when I'm in the water. Well, I'd never really been in the ocean, in the Divine Mother Ocean like that. I mean, I'm from the Northwest, where if you go to the ocean, you don't get in. First off, it's cold. And secondly, it's dangerous. You get riptides and all that. So the closest I'd been was putting my toes into the cold water of the Pacific Northwest, maybe a little dip when I was in Florida long, long ago. But this was different. So I got my mask on and I didn't feel 1 ounce of fear. Jumping into this deep water, I could hear all the fish and I could see the salt in the water. It was so salty that it kept us all afloat. And I felt at home. And I want to give you some of that aloha, miraculous ocean energy, because I was really touched, transformed, and healed by it. To be able to be in that water, to be held by that water without any fear, all I heard over and over and over again in my mind was, water is life. Water is life. And that's what I felt from Mother Ocean. She gave me this beautiful gift of being able to be held, be loved without any fear of death, without any fear of pain. Or I didn't feel any pain when I was in the water. I was so enamored by the life and the energy and that incredible heart of Mother Ocean being available to me. I felt transformed. It was very surreal. And it took me a while to process. And my fear of water is completely gone, by the way, which is amazing to me because I've seriously been terrified of deep water for my whole life. I wouldn't even get into the deep end of the pool, guys. So this was, at one point I was in like 200 feet of water. Nothing, no fear at all. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful, magnificent energy, life, that blue, beautiful light moving through the body and transforming me, holding me up so that I felt like I could fly. It was so beautiful. I just wanted to share that transmission with you. Certainly something that not everybody gets to do. And honestly, I never dreamed I'd do that in my whole life. And then I got to. What a special, wonderful gift. The other thing I discovered while I was there is that I have access to, and I knew this, I have access to what I call the galactic library of this galaxy. And I was holding it, and this was something I didn't realize. I was holding it in my right side of my body. So my right side will hurt, but a lot of times when things weird happen into my body, like I have random stuff go on, it'll always tend to happen on the left side. And this beautiful healer, who was an ex-nurse, become healer, and she saw that. She said, "You're holding a lot on your right side." And so I said, "Yeah, I think you're right." And she said, "What are you holding?" And I know this will resonate with many of you. First off, swords. The first image that came to mind was, this is my sword arm. Here's my right hand. This is my sword arm. Many lifetimes as a warrior, right? And many of them I had two swords. but there's that sword arm energy, right? Like blocking, defense, offense. And then the other thing that I found I was holding is that, well, I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and I've raised a lot of kids and been around so many children, countless kids, and I'd hold them on my right hip. So I was holding kids, you know, holding the defense, holding the offense, holding children. Both masculine and feminine pieces here. Men, of course, holding children, defending their families, women holding the children, defending their families, right? Defending our beliefs on the offense as well. Both things that men and women do. And we're going to gently move into masculine and feminine messages today, because that's what's so important. And you'll see some of the threads I'm weaving in mystically into this through the transmission I'm giving you. So I saw that too. And then I said, you know what it is? It's not even those things that bother me. It's the holding of all that information, incredible amounts of information. And I've merged with all that, but I still have this part of me, this Elizabeth part, that wanted to hold it, that felt responsible for it, like a sword or a baby. And so I was holding all this information, incredible amounts of information. And she said, well, what age comes to mind? What age is really important to you? And I surprised her. I said, 30 million years. And she was expecting me to, you know, come up with a childhood age. And that's not what was bothering me. 30 million years of information being embodied, yet I haven't been in my body. So here we are. I had to ask my deeper, older self, my 30 million year old self, hey, can you help me? Can you move this? And like, can we even this out? Can I hold half in one side and half on the other? Or what can we do here? And I don't like necessarily the word holding, but that's kind of what was happening. I was holding on to information, and I'd rather radiate information. That's what I'd prefer to do, right? So, but I gotta balance it out first. So I asked for that to happen, and it slowly began to occur. There was a movement of all this info, and it took a couple of days for it to balance out in my body, and I physically felt an incredible difference. My right and left side are even now. And this is huge for me. I'd never experienced anything like that before. All right, so then we move forward and continuing to integrate all these things, discovering more of what it's like to actually be in my body, but I wasn't quite there yet. And I kind of knew it, like, there's something missing. So I get home and I settle in, unpack my stuff, give my children a whole bunch of wonderful gifts. And then I get on the phone with my teacher and my friend, Lucia Renee. And I said, hey, would you look at my field? Tell me what you see. Am I missing something? And this is very important because I'm an excellent seer. You all know that. And there's always more, of course, advancement to happen, especially when you're only 37, right? But this is important in that we need each other. I need help to see my own poster when I've got my face right up against it. How can you see your own poster when you've got your nose up against it? You can't. We need each other. We need each other to see the next challenge sometimes. We need each other to see, what am I missing? We need each other to see the next big step, the next shadow, the next level of light, the amount of progress we've made. All of these things we need help with. We're not meant to do that alone. And so even a world-class psychic seer as myself needs help. I can't see everything. That's impossible. But when we work together, we have many more facets. We have many more windows of perspective, which is true wealth. Perspective is true wealth. The perspective that each of you have is incredibly valuable, infinitely valuable. And so here I was going to my trusted friend, and she saw something. Ironically, I had posted a picture of myself at about 4 years old on my little Slack community. I've got this Circle Slack community. I'd love you to come join me. If you want to get off Facebook, come join us in this great little community. We have a good time. We do meditations, all this wonderful stuff. You can find that on my website if you're interested. But on the little Slack community, I posted this picture of myself as 4 years old. And so at 4 years old, I witnessed psychically and empathetically with my heart, experienced Chernobyl. I was in Germany when Chernobyl blew. We got some of the fallout, actually. And I remember seeing what was going on psychically. And I actually later on discovered that I also simultaneously felt it. I felt the millions of people affected by it, and I shut my heart space down. I couldn't shut my third eye down. This sounds familiar, I'm sure. Remember that trauma often will shut the third eye down, and most people have nothing wrong with their third eye. It's that they had some kind of traumatic experience that shut their third eye down, okay, and made it work internally only. If you can imagine something like a tree, if I say imagine a tree and you can imagine it, your third eye is okay. That means it's internally functioning for you. And it probably is that something happened to make you not want to experience the outside dimensions and the extra information, probably as a small child. Why? Well, guess what? We've been going through a lot of trauma and oppression and subjugation on this planet. No wonder so many of us have shut so many of our gifts down because of trauma. It's the number one block, right? So I had posted this picture up there, and there's always a mystical reason for everything. It turns out that's exactly what my friend saw. She saw this young girl, this 4-year-old, and that I had been holding myself separate from her. And she was absolutely right. I had this very clear curtain of guilt between her and I. Guilt that had come through from other lifetimes where instead of being good to children, I was the opposite. Incredible, painful guilt around all of that. Something that I even talked about a little bit at my own birthday party, saying, hey, I know the dark because I was there. I helped make all of that. And that's so important for us to acknowledge that deep, deep-seated part of ourselves that's dipped our toe or took a long swim in the dark shadow. Why would we do something like that? You can't truly know the light without knowing the dark. You can't know the dark without knowing the light. And that's really important for us. As we move forward as a species, it's important to merge with the layers of dark and challenge that are in front of us so you can find the special gift deep past that. Every single layer of dark has an incredible, beautiful gift of light in it. By merging with it fully, that's what you will find. Make sure, if you're curious about this merging idea, listen to last month's circle call for September, because I talk about an abduction experience I went through last month. Seriously, my life's certainly not boring. But last month is something worth listening to because I talk about merger and why merging is one of the most important things we can be doing all the time, right? Good. So here she's naming this. She's showing me, yes, I have not merged with my most wounded child self. So she dialogues with this part of me and asks her, would you be willing to come into the body and be with Elizabeth and help her? And she said, yes, but I'm terrified. I don't want to bother her. That's how much separation I'd created between myself and this child part of me. So I merged with her and I welcomed her fully within me, and she blew up inside me like a balloon, filling up my body. And I realized suddenly, with great surprise, that this felt so good. You see, I thought that it was going to be painful. Why? Why would I think that? Well, because most of my experience in my body has been painful. Yes, of course, I've had pleasure and joy and passion and all of these things, but in general, if you'd ask me, well, how's your body? I'd say it hurts. And so here I get to merge with this child self, and it actually felt so good. And I finally felt good in my body for the first time in my whole life. It's the culmination of what's occurred over this time, over this work I've been doing on myself, wanting so much to be fully embodied so that in this body, I can use this glorious technology to access all the dimensions and bring light into the world through my continued work with merging with new layers of dark, bringing new concepts of light, ancient concepts of light, every kind of new light I can get my hands on that might be new for me, maybe not new for you, but still more light, bringing more light to the table. And I couldn't do it because, not fully, because I'd really not truly been in my body. And today I'm wondering, I'm sure you can notice, there's a difference. There's a difference. I'm enjoying being in my body for the first time. And I'm actually like able to move my hands and enjoy it, which is so cool for me. I really have to say that for those of you who being in the body, it's so hard, see if you can find that linchpin, painful moment where you disassociated or where you weren't even able to come in at all, and merge with them, welcome them so fully to come and be with you in the moment so they don't live in the past anymore. Take that child self, take that teenager self, welcome them into your body to be one with you so they can experience all this divinity with you. It's very precious work. And by no means am I an expert on embodiment itself. But by learning and by sharing and being open and vulnerable with you, that might be able to help 1, 2, 5, maybe more people. And that means that our connection, our intimate connection to each other, that universal constant connection is fulfilled to another degree, little baby steps at a time. And I always like to say, at the quantum level, no shift is too small. No shift is small at all at the quantum level, right? So for me, this is a massive shift. Can you imagine at the quantum level really what this is? I'm only just starting to understand it, but just in time for us to talk today, right? Good. So then there's more because literally at the very moment that I merged with this most painful linchpin part of myself, my last grandparent, my grandfather, died at the very moment that this happened. He actually picked the best death for himself. He walked out as fast as he could. My dad said today, I was talking to him as he's going through his stuff in his house, and he said, he was dead before he hit the floor. And that's exactly what my grandfather wanted, because he watched my grandma die very slowly over many years. And his first wife, he watched her die by drowning. So I want to tell you some about my grandfather, because he's here to bring a message too from the divine masculine. And I'm wearing my grandmother's turquoise squash necklace today in honor of my grandparents. My grandfather was not my biological grandfather. He was my step grandfather. He's the only grandpa I knew on my dad's side. What had happened was my grandfather had been married before to this beautiful lady, and her sister was having a lot of trouble and was going to lose custody of her children. And so they decided to take her sister's children, 3 kids, her sister's children, a boy and 2 girls. They were going to take them in and raise them. First off, he didn't have to do that, but that's what he chose to do. He decided that was the right thing to do, and he wanted to do that. He never had any of his own children. So he took in these children, and one day they were picnicking at this little mining town. My grandfather was a chemical engineer, incredibly brilliant man. At one point, I asked him how he was feeling, and he said, I'm bored. I'm bored because I used to manage hundreds of people, and now I'm doing nothing but gardening. You know, he was an incredible man, incredibly intelligent man. They were having a picnic in this little mining town, and the littlest one fell into the river, and his wife dove in after her, and they both drowned. So here's my grandpa Bob. He's got 2 kids that he's not even biologically related to, but they're his kids. His wife is gone suddenly. This little baby's gone suddenly. And so he connects with another person there in the town, my grandma. My grandmother, Shirley, whose husband walked out on her and gave my dad and his brother a toy and told them, I'm never going to see you again, and left when my father was 8 years old, absolutely shattering him. My dad didn't heal until this year, truly, from that shattering. And here's Grandpa Bob. He meets Shirley. They have 2 kids each, and they're both alone. And they both are really smart. Grandma's a painter. He's this chemical engineer. They're living in the same town. It seemed like the perfect match. And he adopts 2 more kids that aren't even his, my dad and his brother. So now they've got 3 boys and a girl, none of whom were ever even related to him. And he raised them as his own children. And he taught them so much. He taught them all the strength. He taught them, you know, bad habits and good habits. I know he's laughing about it at this point. But, you know, my grandpa Bob had an incredible sense of humor. And it really rubbed off on my father. It rubbed off on all his family members. We all have a good sense of humor now, partially because of him. He made it life an adventure for all these kids whose parents were troubled, and yet he still got them through. He got them through, for better or worse, he did. This is incredible divine masculine message of self-sacrifice, of selfless service, and not the negative kind of self-sacrifice, but the positive kind, the selfless service that brings much, much more love back to you. Because what ended up happening? Well, all of these kids ended up having kids themselves, and my dad had 7 children. And when Grandpa Bob died a few days ago, he had many, many grandchildren and like 12 or 13 grandkids. And he had, you know, a whole bunch more great-grandchildren. Incredible amount of love, all being showered upon him all the time. Incredible amounts of connection and incredible amounts of family, because his selfless service to not only the feminine and the children, the most vulnerable around him, turned into more love. It turned into more connection. It grew the love that he shared. And so Grandpa Bob wants to give all the men a message. Open your hearts. We see you. We see you. The women, we see you. The families, we see you. We love you. We love you with your armor or without your armor. We love you with your mistakes or without them. We never stopped. We never stopped loving you. We need you. We need the men. We need the men to know how much they're truly loved. Mother Ocean, the divine bridge of the divine feminine, is the bridge that's open to you. Take it. Take it with reverence. Because as you know, the divine feminine is both creation and destruction. Mother Pele and Mother Ocean. And without you, none of this works. Your integration, you are preservation. You're the other half of the laws of nature. We need you. We want you to be with us as we build this new earth. You are one of the halves of the doorway to the highest level of what humankind is meant to be. It's not only divine feminine doorway. It is both divine feminine and masculine, side by side, not back to back, not face to face, against or in resistance to one another. Men have had this cage of masculinity that's false put on them. Women have had a cage of femininity that is false put on them. Let's break free. Let's merge with the cage so that it can't come back, so that it has no more power over you. If you want to know how to merge, like I said, go listen to September's Circle Call. I teach you exactly how to do that. If you want something to end its power over you, you must merge with it. It's the fastest, most effective way to do so. And this is not an easy task. So for those women who have been surrounded in those toxic masculine cages, all these men in those cages, merge with that. For those men who've seen and been bombarded by any kind of toxic femininity in those cages, those are not the true souls of those people. That's the ego and the trauma. Each human is not their ego. They are not their trauma. You are not your body or this lifetime. You are an immortal soul. That's who I'm talking to, soul to soul. At my birthday party, a lovely man came and he was surrounding all these women. He was the only guy there. I told him he's our rep. He's our representative of the divine masculine. And he said to me, yeah, okay, I'm going to come out here. I'm going to be really vulnerable. I've been abused. And he laid out the most tragic abuse story. He's in so much pain, physical pain especially, and the masculine tends to embody that physical pain, very much so, and I highly relate. I'm a very masculine woman in that I'm bisexual, and you know, that's partially my hormones, but it's also many lifetimes as a man. So coming in as a woman this time was really important for me. But what he's experiencing, I showed him, I said, none of that is you. You've been trying to understand it by being in resistance to it, by trying to chip away at it and heal it. And I said, but you've also been trying to be it. You've been trying to be your own pain. But that's not who you are. And I pointed behind him a little bit and I said, I'm not talking to that part of you. I'm talking to you, the soul. That's the true you. I see that part. Someone asked me recently, why do you seem to like everybody? There's all these people out there, they're vampires, they're bad, they're they're selfish, they're narcissists. Why do you like everybody? I said, well, first off, that's an illusion. Just because I'm kind to people doesn't necessarily mean I like them. You can be kind and loving and unconditional in your love and not like somebody. And she said, yeah, but you work with so many people and you're never tired of it. Why? And I said, because I see potential first. I see the soul in that person. And I'm lucky because I can physically see it. I see the soul and I see, oh, they don't even remember they're a soul. Most people have no realization that that's who they are, this incredible immortal consciousness made of source. And I said, I realize that. And so I don't talk to their trauma. I don't talk to their ego. I talk to their soul. I'm a mirror. I'm an oracle. I'm meant to show them the truth of who they really are. They are not their pain. You are not your trauma. People tend to speak wound to wound, trauma to trauma, instead of soul to soul. So I'm good at that. I can show people, how do you speak soul to soul? That's what I'm doing now. I see people's potential, what they're capable of, and I talk to that. Doesn't matter what they've done at all. No exceptions. To my love, no conditions. To my love, no exceptions to my universal compassion. Everything has its place. That's what I'm speaking to in the masculine in you, is that divinity, the truth behind all of that. And that's the message from my grandpa Bob. He lived his life in deep, incredible amounts of self-sacrifice, loving these children in ways that they had never been loved, despite them not ever even being biologically related to him. And that's so special. And I'm so glad that he got to walk out, but he ended an era real quick. He ended the era of my grandparents. He was the last. And now all of that's gone. All those memories are gone from the body. And now they're in other realms, accessible, of course, through the heart. That's why I've cried some, but I'm actually okay. Like I'm not in as deep of grief as I thought. I'm processing still, and I'll continue to process. I'm still processing all my grandparents' deaths. And we ought to know that processing doesn't end. That's really important. We don't get done with processing. Processing is a way of life. That's very important. And if you know what's on the other side of every process, some new layer of light, then the discovery process is really what life is all about. Discovering what is beyond the deep challenges and pain, what's beyond the depth of whatever trauma, drama you're experiencing, having that mystical mindset, being a spiritual scientist who's interested in the archaeology of the human experience. Layer by layer by layer, we discover all those new kinds of formless, intelligent light. Merger by merger, collaboration by collaboration. And your greatest mirrors are the people around you, no matter how dense or traumatized they really are. No matter what, it's always soul to soul, always. Even if you're feeling like you're speaking wound to wound or ego to ego, and you might even be aware of it, it's still soul to soul. Now it's your chance to take that position as the soul in charge and be the one who's able to speak soul to soul very consciously. There's all that light that comes through the eyes. It's different. It's different when someone speaks to you from their soul and not their ego. It still gets run through your personality, but personality is inflection, it's body language, it's language. Personality is, running information and light through your experience without needing that extra attention that the ego is always trying to get. I don't get on YouTube because I want attention. I get on YouTube because I'm here to transmit massive loads of light to you. This is my job, and I would never want to do anything different. But it's my job to help uplift humanity into our next level of consciousness, to the galactic. So let's tie this to the galactic. This, from a galactic perspective, what's occurred for me in the embodiment experience and then the healing of the divine masculine and feminine, watching this occur through my grandfather's death and the experience with the feminine there, very clear feminine of Pele and Ocean in Hawaii, for example, or wherever you are, really, to notice that this merger is being asked of us. This was not a personal experience. That's what it looks like from our perspective here on the ground level of Earth, right? Looks like a personal experience that Elizabeth is talking about. It is not. It is not. It is a mirror for what's going on galactically and universally. And so is your life. Every single moment, it's a mirror for the universe. So what can I do from my level of perspective here? I can plant a seed. I can plant a seed from within, and I can ask it to grow into a galactic level of change. A change within me radiates and flows out like a wave into all of existence. And I'm capable, and so are you, of directing that level of change to where I think it needs to be most. And I'm most deeply connected to the galactic part. The fact that, first off, we're not alone. Secondly, we deserve to have a seat at that table, in the galactic table and beyond. And that the human species future is a galactic one. It already is a galactic one. It already has been a galactic one. So I get to tie that wave to that level of reality. And my ask is for the interchange that has occurred within me, this embodiment, this balancing and healing of the masculine and feminine in my inner life, that also can happen for the collective, the earth, and the galactic. So I see this and I get to share it. I get to share it with you right now, planting the seed in the collective consciousness. I can also share it with the galactic by simply putting my consciousness, my awareness at that level and allowing that change to move from me outward to that level. And it's received. It's received. If you'd like to make the inner shifts within you, you can plant those seeds and let them grow into whatever layer of reality you choose. Maybe it's just your family. That's oftentimes an amazing amount of change right there. Maybe it's the collective. Maybe it's the earth. Maybe it's also the galactic and the universal too. Everything is connected. So which string of the web of life are you going to pluck every day is the question. So I see for the collective that this journey of bridging the divine masculine and feminine again is really important and on the table currently. We need each other. Massive shifts are going on. Huge fires are going on in the California. People are in poverty, living in tents where it's freezing cold. People are suffering all over the world. There are still refugees. The Bahamas are still flattened. Some places still haven't recovered from natural disasters, even after years. There are still wars going on. There's still people chasing down other people and killing them, or them killing themselves and other people, and all kinds of awful things. This is an example of the fact that there's this imbalance between what's the core imbalance? Divine masculine, divine feminine, men and women inside of us and outside of us. Each of us has the masculine and feminine inside, right? And so start there. Do you want these things to change? Of course you do. None of us want war. None of us want suffering, especially for the most vulnerable. The children, the families, the sick, the elderly, the vets, the incarcerated. These are our vulnerable. So where do we start? All this is so overwhelming. Only if you're looking on the outside, my friends. Start inside. If we want the world to change, start inside. Start in you. What are your reactions? What are your traumas? That's the exact right place to start. And you might have a long list. Don't get overwhelmed. Just work with what's in front of you. What's the first bad memory that comes into your mind when you're doing X, Y, or Z? What's the first negative thought that runs into your head in the day when you wake up? What's the first reaction you have to snip at whomever at work or whatever? What's the first reaction you have when somebody's mean to you? Or when you feel as an empath, as so many of you are, that hit, blam, onto your heart first, right? No wonder men wear armor all the time energetically, right? That's the power center of the man, is the heart. Not the root, the heart. The power center of the feminine is the root. We've been taught it's the other way around. That's not true. It's not. You can see that when you put a man in a physical man body, right? You know, souls don't have gender or sex. Souls are souls. We have gender, we have sex, we have these things. Yes, there's a spectrum, of course. But what's most important is, where is your power center? You know, can a female have a heart power center? Yes. But the physicality of the power center will often be the center of balance in the body. And so that's important to ask yourself, where's my most powerful centers and how can I work on developing and opening them? And for the men, it's the heart, and men tend to wear a lot of armor because guess what? Those little boys that they were at first, that little boy, my dad, 8 years old, he had his heart broken. He had his heart broken by the masculine, who was supposed to represent the divine masculine, and he didn't. And so my dad decided at that age that he would be a soldier. And he started to wear energetic armor at that time and physically wore armor for many, many years. Until one day, many years after he had retired from the military, I asked him, "Are you ready to take your flak jacket off?" Be protection. Men want to protect themselves from the pain. Take the armor off and be protection, be preservation. You don't need protection. You are protection. We need you. And for the women, release your roots. Be wisdom and knowledge. Be it. And yes, we can be both. I can be both. You can be both. But that's the message. Be the wisdom and knowledge. Don't search for it. Be it. It's not beyond you. It's in you. Be protection. Radiate unconditional love. Nothing can stop that light. Nothing can stop that formless knowledge and wisdom moving through the feminine, making a bridge for us to meet finally and end this separation between us and end the pain between us so we can link arms together, all of us, men and women, children, all of us, all cultures, linking our arms, navigating consciousness in these new waters. Every day it's new. Every day is a new water. Every day. Mother Ocean has that message for us. She bridges continents with the divine feminine that is destruction. Lava is, there's nothing more destructive than lava besides, atomic bombs, I guess. But natural destruction, lava. Lava has created all of the rocks and the continents and the islands. She creates bridges and we get to walk on them. We get to experience connectivity to the earth and the water safely when these two things meet. The water and the lava, they meet, they create new bridges. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening. And I want the masculine to be heard. And I want you to know we see you, we hear you, we know that you hurt and that you're traumatized, and that is valid. That is valid. My grandpa, he was traumatized, he was hurt. He was lonely. He was ready to go. And he's free now. He's free and he gets to experience all this wonder outside the body. And I'm proud for him. I'm glad he got the swift, easy death he asked for. He asked for that. And good for him. So let me conclude here this portion of what I wanted to talk to you about. This message is to help us all recognize how we can bring the masculine and feminine within us into oneness. If you're wearing armor as a man or a woman, or you've shut down your inner wisdom and knowledge and you've been searching outside the self for that, work on the trauma part. Work on your trauma. You won't be dissatisfied with the outcome, with the levels of light that you can access. And coming from a perspective where I myself had incredible, terrible PTSD for so long. I tried to commit suicide, incredible amounts of darkness. Coming through all of that and being able to do this on the fast track, I bow to you, those generations that have come before me. If you're older than 37, I'm talking to you. Thank you. Thank you for carving the way for me to do this work without persecution. Thank you, grandmothers and grandfathers. Thank you, mothers and fathers, for carving the way so that I can turn right around and help you now to shine light on your path, because we're not done. And I'll continue to carve the way. I've got the message. I've got the tools. I will build on them. I won't stop. You've got me working on all of our behalf. And all of you are continuing this work. I'm not ahead of you. We're in this together. We're all on the cutting edge at this point. If you chose to be here on this planet right now, and if you chose to be here on this planet over the past 100 years, we're all on the cutting edge. We're moving this forward, this experiment on Earth. It's been reset. Now's the chance to embody what we are capable of. We got to clean up our own inner house. All of our houses are full of junk and trash and trauma from all of our ancestors. It's time for all that to go and make room for the soul. Make room for all your inner children and all your teenage selves and all your 20-some selves. Make room so that we can fully be embodied and experience what these bodies are capable of. We've only just begun getting to know exactly what that looks like. And by the time I leave my body, hopefully somewhere in between where I can at least say goodbye, but it's not really slow or too fast, right? Who knows? Maybe I'll get hit by a bus. Who knows, right? But by the time I'm ready to leave my body, I look forward to seeing where humanity is truly at and how much work we've done and how beautiful the human experience is, how good it really does feel when we can truly be in these bodies. And having never had that experience until now, I love it here. I like being human. I love being human. I love it. I want to radiate that to you. I know a lot of you don't like it and that you dislike humanity. Merge with that. Don't let that have power over you anymore. It's your chance to be in love with the human experience now, to be in love with the masculine and the feminine, their differences and their similarities, and the equanimity that we all are capable of experiencing now. Now. In the now is where all the action is. And that's what I'm radiating to you today. That's the gift I can give you from my heart to yours today. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this story. Let's actually look at some of these questions that are probably coming up. And so thank you for the condolences. I do so appreciate it. And as many of you know, I'm very death positive, actually, because I know what happens beyond death. And it's a wonderful, beautiful thing, not a tragic thing. And yes, of course, we miss our people and our animals and our friends. We miss them, but it's temporary. Life is so short. Life is short, right? Good. So Belinda was asking, last time I was here, I asked you what was coming my way, and I had a strong feeling something was coming to me. You said it was a big white wave from the 11th and 12th dimensions, and I was wondering if you could elaborate on the answer you gave me. Are we going to all see a big white wave? Thank you so much. So I think, Belinda, you're asking me you're asking the outside. I would encourage you to go in deep to your heart and your gut. And so whatever I saw for you, that's important, sure, to ask the outside if you need to, because we need help, right? But you need to discern truly if that's the truth. Discern by asking your heart. discern by asking your gut and trusting your inner knowledge. Ask yourself, is this accessible information? Is this light or this big white wave, is this accessible to me now? And if so, I would like to embody it. Help me. And the white wave of energy that I see is actually coming from the solstice getting started. You know, it starts early, especially solstices. And here's December solstice going to come up sooner than later. I know it's still October, but everything's moving so fast, right? And that's that 9D consciousness that, and again, you know, when we're talking about dimensions here, there aren't really any dimensions. Mathematically, it's a very different situation. So it's the best word we have right now to talk about different layers of frequency coming in. Christ consciousness is that divine masculine mercy, and it's coming. And that's, some people say it's ninth dimensional. And it's just more formless. It's more formless, subtle energy. That's what you need to know. And Belinda, ask your heart and your gut. Is this for me now? Is it coming soon? Or is it accessible now from your heart and your gut separately? Excuse me. So I want you to trust, you know, when we get information, we got to go in, we got to discern and trust ourselves, trust that wisdom, be the wisdom and the knowledge that's available, right? On circle calls, I don't do personal readings. That's good for group calls and for one-on-ones, okay? But I'm saying very clearly, the message for you, Belinda, and everyone on the call is to trust your body, trust your heart and your gut. Don't let your mind get in the way. Wanting more elaboration oftentimes is the mind trying to make sense of what was just said to you, even though it's extremely esoteric, right? Trust your heart and your gut to help you to see that truth. And if any energy happens to one person, it's never to one person alone as a individual experience. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. It's always a mirror of the universe, always, and the collective. So Kathleen, I did actually get your email, and you were wondering what happened 12,000 plus or minus years ago that broke the human soul and disassociated individuals and groups from knowing ourselves as part of the whole. What dynamic is compelling such terrible behaviors? Can we extract out the true medicinal qualities of that darkness? That's wonderful. Very good insight. So I want to point something out. Those disassociations have happened many times over the past 500,000 years. Partially either because of interference, galactic interference, or from any kind of internal greed that gets planted into human consciousness. So for example, the fall of Egypt would be one of those examples that happened because of incredible greed and people being taught how to do very terrible things to get what they want. And so this has been seeded, S-E-E-D, seeded many times, not just once. And you're exactly right. We must merge with that dark in order to heal our history and to be one again. That is what's playing out right now on Earth, is the endings of those terrible disassociation events. And so I was actually considering doing a talk and I didn't know on what, and so I think you've given me my new topic. because I teach a class on November 3rd, literally this next weekend. Come join me. I'm going to teach you how to change the world. I have a mapping method, a cultural mapping method I'd like you to use. It will help you change your lives, your businesses, your cultures, even your local communities. Come join me next week. It'll be next Sunday. I'm going to teach, and I might do a talk later that day. So my class is always $47, and it'll be a lifelong tool you can use forever to help you with every level and layer of your reality. There really are universal tools like that, and I've got one of them. And I can't wait to share it with you. It's the second half of my galactic and quantum anthropology class. And so this will be the cultural mapping part where I elaborate on the tool that will help you combine universal and galactic consciousness with material and even quantum consciousness and be able to affect real change in your life. That's what I'm an expert on, is culture change and how to implement it. I hope you'll come join me. It is up on my website right now under Seer and Scientist. If you go to offerings, it's at the top. And so I was thinking about doing a talk that day for just an hour. And I think I'm going to do a talk about human history. And we're going to talk all about human history, the true human history. Bet you all really want to learn about that, or at least get a different perspective if you've already been digging in on that. And I'm quite happy to share what I know about the dark and the light of what's happened over the past 500,000 years. And I'm going to take a very scientific, anthropological viewpoint on it, and I'll point you to some good quality evidence that will help you to make your decision about what has truly happened to us, what should we be merging with, and what can we do to make sure this stuff won't happen again? That's always a good question, right? So Kathleen, I've got your back. I want to talk more about it. Look for that in the emails that I'll be sending you this week. And so just as a reminder to my friends, I really do want to give you these personal readings, and I won't be able to on our big public call, but I do want you to hear the message I have for you, because for whatever reason, you had to hear it today. And so deep inside that message is something special just for you every time. Very good. And so just going through my Q&A board here. So Sherry's asking, you know, I have asked my heart and my gut, and maybe there's something I'm missing. I don't get a specific answer. I love my own body. I feel I am in my body. I feel I am here to help my family and my daughter, my granddaughter. When we change timelines, does that change the destined time of our death? So Sherry, I have an answer for you, but I want to be clear here. I've taught an entire class about this already, and it's going to be put into an ebook form for you, all about time. I want to point something out to you, Sherry, and see if this resonates with you and your heart, and see if this resonates with all of you. Timelines are an illusion. Linear time doesn't really exist. Time is more like an ocean. And every single movement you make changes timelines because it's an ocean. There isn't one timeline you're on. You're constantly playing in an ocean of time. And so there is no set destiny yet. At the same time, that's the mystery of free will. Because of course, what's going to happen is going to happen. Only Source knows. Don't depend on anyone to tell you the future, because no one can. No one can. And this is coming from someone who, by the way, in anthropology in college, I developed an excellent predictive model of which I'm going to teach you next weekend. A predictive model that gives you a clue about the possibilities that are most likely. Anyone who does predictive models knows that you can't predict the future. Never, never, ever. And as a psychic, telling you straight up, no one can predict your future. No good quality psychic will ever tell you what your future is because they can't. They cannot. It's not possible. So it's very important for us to stay present. And if you're feeling trouble about having a clear answer from your heart or gut, what I like to do is I like to ask not open-ended questions, because then you're looking for a specific answer. That's an expectation, and that's not going to work. Use yes or no questions. So see if you can tweak your question and see, what does my heart and gut say when I ask a yes or no question? Because if you try to ask a general question, you're not going to get a clear, direct answer. But the body's good at giving you yes or no, or maybe. And sometimes, if it's all conflicted, it simply needs more information. So that might be the part of the step that you want to work with, Sherry. I hope that'll help you. And so, Melissa, I hear you. I know you've been suffering so much. And you've gone through a lot. And so Melissa, she's having all this trouble. She really wants to merge with this painful part of her childhood. And she's doing all this work on the shadow so much. And she has had a vision of the earth's changes. Many of us have these visions. That's source saying, hey, you're on the right track, right? It's not source giving us the exact future. That's not what source does. But source can give us a hint. Hey, you're on the right track. Okay, the current is moving that direction in time, right? And so we're trying to heal the male and female within. Melissa has been doing that. She's been working hard on it. And she's doing a good job. Melissa, I see you. I hear you. I hear you. You are on the right track. I know where you're at is not in any way, shape, or form conducive to good survival. Don't stop connecting to people. Keep reaching out. We hear you. We see you. So many light workers who are in really bad spots right now. We hear you. We see you. Good. And so Jemai asks, would you encourage someone to fight the system, like a domestic violence survivor? I witnessed a psychic medium relay this to a domestic violence survivor. Is it wasted energy in these times under a corrupt governance? Would they be better off trying to heal their trauma? Or is such a message actually relevant to some based on what they've come here to do and experience at their level of awareness? Fabulous question. And so my answer is that when we feel that we must fight something, we're only working on a certain playing ground. Fighting against something creates resistance and defense. And when we're dealing with a very corrupt system that's much larger than us, that can feel like a very daunting task, and it can feel like misery trying to do that. So how do we end that cycle of fighting against a system, or fighting against a big problem, or fighting against the darkness? That is a layer of reality that exists. Do you want to work at that layer of reality? Is that layer of reality important for you right now? For me, for many years, fighting against a system that was so corrupt and also fighting against the demonic was incredibly important for my learning. It depends on where someone's at. Are they still needing to work at that level of reality? If they are finished, then someone, something, some messenger of some type will come and lead them or give them a doorway, a chance to end their relationship with that particular playing ground. So for me, it was actually a single session that I did. I'd been fighting against the demonic for so long. I went into session with this beautiful woman who had been tortured by this demonic entity for an incredible amount of time. And just for those of you who are wondering if that's real or not, yes, it is. It's very real. There's scientific evidence abounding for these things to be absolutely real, including CIA documents that have been released about interdimensional beings that kept messing up their crazy plans. So here I'm doing a session with this person. She's got this entity who's been torturing her, and he's got chains and chains and chains full of all these people he's been torturing. I show up in this session, I'm holding this woman in my field, and this demon knows me. And it surprised me. He actually knew me. He knew who I was. And it disturbed me. It also totally tweaked my ego, right? Like, ooh, demons know me now. I've got a reputation. Oh, that's a bad reputation to have. So here I am. This thing knows me. I'm not going to talk to it. So I'm talking to this lady, and I start laughing, and I'm like, wow, this thing knows what I'm here to do. I'm here to destroy it. And it knows. And she said, well, do we have to destroy it? No one had ever asked me that before. I said, well, I guess not. I mean, every demon was once an angel. I guess not. And then I realized, what if we had mercy? What if we gave it a chance? What if we gave it a chance to return back to the light? Can a demon be rehabbed? Is the question. We gave this thing a chance, and it miraculously transformed into this most beautiful, magnificent angel. And suddenly I realized what I had done, that for most of my life I'd been destroying these beings without ever giving them a chance. And so I looked at this being and I said, how many people did you just release? And he said, 10,000. Will you remain an angel? And why did you decide to change? Yes, I changed because I believed that you were going to end me today, and you didn't. You showed me mercy, and I've never experienced that kind of love or that kind of mercy before. And I'm so moved by that light. I want that. I want to continue that. And I never did any kind of work like that again. I stopped going around chopping demons' heads off, and instead I shine my light on them, and I bring the light out of the people who they've been torturing, and we love on them. We love the light within them because they are made of light too. And it transforms them just like it transforms a human or an animal who's been cornered and tortured for so long that they become perpetrators, that they become beings that are vicious. Every single one of them have souls and can be drawn out. They are made of light too. And that's what it's going to take to heal this planet. So if someone is ready, Jamai, if someone's ready for them to be able to lift out of the for and against and the battling, and then to work on themselves and the shadow within, rehabilitating their own hearts, rehabilitating their own connection to their soul, then they're going to enter into a different playing field. That playing field is formlessness and density, not light and dark, not good and evil. all darkness, all trauma, all damage, all pain is consciousness under pressure. And when it's dense, light can't move through very easily. That's why it looks dark. So when we merge with it, we allow it to unfold and give us the gift of light that is hidden within. That's the other playing field that we are going to need to work from in order to fully heal this planet and all the divisions and terrible events that have happened to us, all written in our DNA. All that history is there in you. Good. So let's take a look at our chat here. So I'm going to go up, look at chat. I'm also going to look at the YouTube chat. So if you're on YouTube and you're putting stuff in, I'm going to read it. Thanks for your patience. Got your message, Kathleen. And then, so Anat, I know you had your message up and it was personal, but I'd like to kind of take what you were showing and perhaps speak to it in a general way. So Anat says, I've done a lot of work on integrating many soul pieces that left fractured during my childhood traumas. Yes, definitely. I can relate with what Elizabeth's talking about. I also trained as a facilitator in this healing and integrating those parts of us. I highly recommend doing that, to go look at some of the parts, the shattering that happens to us, right? To bring it all into wholeness. You know, it's like a vase that's been shattered. Then you get all the pieces together and you put the vase back together, right? And you have this time of integrating it all so it gets nice and smooth. But there's another step beyond that. Then it's time to say goodbye to the vase. And that's the releasing of identity. This is a mystical step that some of you might be ready for. Sit down and write down your identity. Release it. Release every single title you've ever had. Be prepared to go with no vase to the next level of consciousness so you can be incredibly present and not necessarily run your light through any kind of container. So if that resonates with you, just sit with that and kind of hang out with that. Write your identity down on a piece of paper. Burn it in ritual, say goodbye and close those doors behind you. Prepare for the next party, which will be much more formless. So some folks are feeling energetically paralyzed, like Maureen is pointing out. She's really feeling running out of finances. She's trying to apply for jobs and work, and what's going to help her out of this? A lot of people are going through this. You know, Melissa's gone through it. A lot of us have gone through this. This has been really hard. And so we're actually oftentimes completely blocked around that because we're not actually taught proper abundance work. One of the biggest traps of this consciousness work is this false abundance teaching that gets spread around like wildfire for years and years and years now. And it's not real. It's only a portion of it is actually helpful. It often will throw us into a big guilt problem. The first question to ask when you're in financial straits too, or feeling paralyzed and you don't know what the next step is to ask, what vulnerable population am I truly being asked to serve right now? What vulnerable population am I being asked to serve? If you're physically capable, go literally walk around in a spiral in your town and ask Source to show you which vulnerable population lights up your heart. Is it the animals, the plants, the children? Maybe abused women or pregnant women, birthing women, women after birth, new daddies, veterans, men who have been abused. We have so many to name off, an incredible list that I could not possibly name off here. Those are the people that we are being asked to serve. Get out there and volunteer. That's the third step. Either really nail down your population at home, or you get out and you start walking around, literally. Start walking around. See who lights you up. Which vulnerable population shows up. Source will show you. The third step is, okay, get yourself out there. Show up. Show up at the pet shelter and volunteer. Show up and read some books to some kids. Show up and sit with an elder who probably can't even speak, maybe, but are probably very lonely, and read to them. The more you give, the more that abundance cycle gets going. Nature shows us exactly how to do that. It's cradle to cradle out in nature. It's the same with human abundance. There is no difference. It's not because you didn't visualize long enough or hard enough. It's not because you got the wrong program or whatever. It's because you weren't actually taught how to be in service, so all that energy can come back to you, often in the form of money, shelter, food, all the things that you need. Okay? So to end the paralysis, start with those three things. That's a perfect start. And if you end up falling in love with an aspect of the work, you know, like our friend here, she was saying, you know, I was looking at affiliate marketing. Is that a thing that I should be doing? Does it light you up? Ask your heart and your gut. Discern with your body. Your body will show you what is for you. Follow your bliss. What do you love? Do you love to sit and color? Even as an adult? Do you love to sing? Do you love to garden? Do you love being with animals? What about children or pregnant ladies or vets? Do those things. Follow your bliss. Your body will light up. It will feel good. Paralysis is a sign that that's not working. You ought to feel lighter and happier and more in alignment. And then you'll know, this is what I love to do. Get started there. And so, you know, Nikki says, how can we be on a hurling planet that's hurling through space in a galaxy and not be galactic beings? Well, isn't that the trick? Absolutely. So Marga's wondering, what does this concept of the soul really mean? Is my soul different from others? Aren't we all from the source? What's going on? Yes, all of the above, my friend. So if source is like a big sheet, right? And here I poke my finger up in one part of the sheet, and here's me, and here's you, Marga. Well, we're still in the same source field. It looks like we're individuals acting, right? That's the illusion. And the job is to find that source oneness while we're still having an illusion of an individuated experience. That's the job. So a soul is just simply divine source coming through as an individuation. It's kind of like if all our bodies are houses, this aspect of source then comes into the house and, well, it feels like it's in a separate house, but it's all on the same land. It's all coming from the same light, from the same source. Or if you were to take a house and say, well, this is all of humanity and every window is a human being, the light shining out is going to look a little different through each window, right? Through the Elizabeth experience or the Marga experience. Because each window has its own traumas, its own personality, its own ego, right? That's the individual part, the ego, the personality, the body, the trauma. But the light coming through is the same. It's from source. Here's a demon, here's Elizabeth. The light coming through is the same. And why? Why would source want to have that experience? Because, it seems like one wants to torture the other and blah, blah, blah. Well, it all has to do with the purpose of the universe. The purpose is that this whole entire experiment of this universe is based off of one question. What is love? To discover that, we also find out what is not love. And so with that discovery of what is love, what is not love, when you discover truly deep down into what is not love, you still find love at the bottom of all of it. And that's the source field. That's that source light coming through to create this universe, which is all about relationship. The soul's relationship with the body, the soul's relationship with the ego, people's relationships with each other, always discovering what is love. That's the reason why source can be both a demonic entity and a helpless human. Because in that discovery, just like you witnessed in my story, we find out what is love in the end. Every time. Good, I hope that answered your question. So, Daki says, as you prove with your story of Grandpa Bob, it's the new story we tell when we break free of the matrix, designed limitations. See the story behind the trauma of our ancestors' mistakes and feel compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude for their courage and goodness. These stories are the foundation of building a world that works for everyone. Absolutely. Each of us has these stories to tell. Absolutely, they do. That is a grand truth, and it's why I so value listening to what is on the other side of bowing to our trauma, as you've done. I'm grateful for your speaking. I'm grateful you're also in a space that we can speak into. Spacious, limitless grace flows freely because when we speak this truth beyond trauma, we become this truth. I, too, am in love with this human experience. And that is part of true embodiment. Daki is embodying this truth. I'm embodying this truth by us sharing, by us speaking together. Don't stop. Don't stop sharing. I know a lot of teachers say, oh, don't get caught in the story. I'm an anthropologist. Story is beautiful. It's not the end, though. After a story, we find the energy behind it and we merge with that. That's the other half of the equation. So, right, don't get caught in the story forever. Make sure you're looking for what's underneath it. What's the frequency? What's the energy? What's the lesson? What's the light that I can merge with? What's the shadow that I can merge with to find more light in any story that happens to us, right? And so when you hear someone share a story, try to do that for them. Pull out the light in their story so that they can see, oh, that's what I'm meant to get out of that. I don't have to stay in the story. I can really gain what I needed and then be able to walk through that doorway and shut the door behind you, right? And so that's really useful because then we don't have to leak a whole bunch of energy into the past, right? Or worry about the future. We stay here in the moment where all the action is. Beautifully said. Thank you, Daki. So Martine, about the tips with the body part, make sure you're listening to the beginning part because getting back into the body, you're going to want to take a look at which parts of the being back into the body really stood out for you. Perhaps there's some merging with some trauma that needs to happen, and then you'll be able to feel more comfortable there. Just noticing your own body is an incredibly useful way. Noticing, when you're sitting on the chair, can you feel the ground? Can you feel your body? When you have emotions, where is it in your body? Those are some of the ways that help me continue to stay and work in the body. And thank you for the very sweet compliments. I do read them. Thank you. Yeah, and some folks, you know, they've had people transition recently too, and we're all going through that continued work, being able to just celebrate them and love them. That grief doesn't stop, and it's a process. And it's so important to honor that and take the time to do that. So Lori wants to know, if all beings are eternal, how were you able to destroy them? No, not all beings are eternal, not at all. The soul is eternal. The soul, which is source. Source is eternal. The individuation of all these different versions of us, they're not eternal. They make their mark on time space, sure. But they're not eternal. We don't really want them to be either. I don't want to stay Elizabeth forever. I really like being Elizabeth, but I'd really like to do other stuff too. And who's really saying that? Well, my soul, which is source. That's what remains eternal. Kara said, in the series The Good Place, a demon called Michael is rehabbed into a good person by the friendships of humans. How perfect. I love it. Yeah, and so Angela's pointing out, hey, I've learned that being in service is very different than servitude. Absolutely. Was trying to point that out a little bit. Like, don't self-sacrifice to this negative degree. Self-service, selfless service, or making sacrifices if needed is important, but not to the level of servitude. And you'll want to really look at that carefully for yourself, because that might be real different between two people, what servitude means. And selflessness. For me, selflessness is making sure I'm always addressing soul to soul. So I know I'm not feeding my ego, and I'm not going to feed their ego or speak trauma to trauma or wound to wound, because that'll just magnify it. But soul to soul is one of the ways I can be of selfless service, because I can do that every single waking moment. And it takes effort, because it's really easy for me to want to speak from my ego. So that incredible effort, well, it pays off big time with a lot more light. That's one way I do it. And so if it was servitude, well, there'd be codependency and all kinds of messiness. And that's not what I want to create or co-create with anybody, right? And good, I'm so glad, Maureen, we got some answers for you. Very good. All right. Okay, so let's see. Lynn asks, I just recently realized that when I ask to be shown direction and what is true, I've been shown where I should not go, what I should not do, rather than being disappointed. Realizing I need to go in a different direction that I'd ever imagined. I had to be open to see a whole new direction I hadn't considered. Beautiful. Hey, that's a big lesson. I celebrate you, Lynn. What a wonderful discovery. And so, you know, Anat's giving us a really clear 3D example here. His ex stopped paying alimony. Is it considered fighting to go to court with that? Is it fighting in dense energy I don't want to be in? Is it giving up and not showing up for myself to speak my truth and stand up for myself like I didn't in so many lifetimes? And I just want you to feel into that statement. Like is it for me not to stand up for myself like I didn't in many lifetimes? No, not at all. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. I think that if you're here to stand up for your voice, And you know it's your chance to stand. The best way you can do it with impeccable light, Anat, is to make sure that you process the trauma, the rage, the anger, that you process the emotional charge, and then you go to court. That's how you'll be able to do it with impeccability, with strength and truth, and not be doing this for and against fighting game anymore. You can still go to court and not be playing on that playing field. Okay? We can still go out there and do legal justice. We can be part of legal justice. We can require that things are done properly with light and impeccability from our corporations, from our governments, all of the above, from our communities, that the right thing is done, to speak up for the right thing, the light thing, the most equanimitable thing. That is different than ending the fight. Ending the fight means that you don't have a big reactive charge behind it anymore. And then you stand in the truth, knowing fully that you're bringing that true light to the table, and nothing can shake you from that. That is impressive. People notice that. People love leaders who are capable of that. We are all capable of that. Good. Okay, so I'm going to go over to YouTube and take a couple of questions. Oh, someone asked a question here. Why have some angels fallen? Did they actually choose to fall? If so, for what reason? To learn about darkness. Yeah, that's something we're going to address in my talk about human history, because that's really important. That's got some very clear answers, and it would take me a long time to give you a more clear answer. So let's do that talk. Let's do that talk at next Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and that'll be on November 3rd, okay? And for those of you who are around on November 1st, which is All Souls Day, Lori Spania, my friend, and I are going to be talking, and we're going to do it live on YouTube again and a webinar. Look for that too. And I've got a couple of neat interviews coming out that I think you'll enjoy. And I'll try to answer some of these questions the best I can on those interviews too. But on November 1st, join Lori and I think that'll be very special. And next Sunday, I'm going to talk about human history for an hour or maybe 90 minutes. I won't necessarily take a lot of questions that day because I'm going to be teaching earlier that day. Come learn how to do this cultural mapping system and this predictive model work so that you can start to implement real measurable change in your lives now. There's no reason to wait. I've been waiting to teach this for a decade. It's been in a closet. So I'm very, very ready to bring all of this out. It's all the theoretical work I did. And it is beautiful. It works. I've taught it in colleges, in college classes. So I'm very happy to share. All right, let me see if I can pull up YouTube and see if there's any questions there. Okay. Oh no, Marie lost her son. And Kathleen is going through all this stuff with her son too. And gosh, talking about divine masculine coming up, really massive, massive stuff. And so let's hold those men. Let's hold all the men who are in suffering right now. All of you men on the call, any men who you know, any men in your lives. We're asking for the most beautiful, loving, divine light to manifest so that they can understand that they are souls. They are souls first, and that they are powerful and that we need them. We need them. And the men too that have transitioned. You know, my grandfather, your son, Marie, these folks, they've transitioned. They have got work to do on the other side. And we ask them to help us with our men, help us with the women, help us join together. In a moment, we're going to build a pillar of light. We're going to build a pillar of light. So someone made a point around Karen. Karen loves ancient history. And I know you're interested in the teachings around time, Karen. And I wanted to say, I know a lot about Gigantopithecus, and I'm happy to touch on that a little bit when we do our little talk about history. And as for the class about time, I'm remodeling it into a part of a book. So that's going to be coming out in the next few months, I hope. So look forward to that. If you're signed up for my emails, you'll be sure and get lots of information like that coming out, so you can have access to that whole class about time, which will really, really help a lot of people, I think. And Flower Diamond really likes the idea of the shifting of identity. It has helped a lot for me to continue to stay very present and move forward beyond just this human identity, enjoying the human experience as a soul. And I'm so glad that Kimmy Kim, you were able to get some clarity. Wonderful. Ross wants to know, what does it mean to be a seer in the first place? So a seer is basically an advanced level psychic. So every skill set has different advancements. And one's, for example, is psychic. Everybody actually has access to all of these. And so the psychic skill set, an advanced level of that is a seer, and an advanced level of that is an oracle. So there's like a soldier, a warrior, a commander. There's lots of different layers and levels of any kind of skill set. That's what we're here to do, advance these soul level skill sets that Source has been practicing with in order to understand what is love. That's the job. Very good. And hello, Richard. All right, so here we are. Let's actually do a pillar of light. We have our last 15 or so minutes here. Perfect time. We're here to do a pillar of light for the divine masculine and divine feminine and their marriage of equanimity in each of us and for the whole planet and the galaxy. And so I was thinking we ought to build it on the Nilotic Meridian on Lake Victoria. Why would I pick that specific spot? Well, the Nilotic Meridian is this very, very long meridian in Africa, and it's where Homo sapiens were first entered into the embodiment. And Lake Victoria is this big body of water on the Nilotic Meridian that can magnify whatever we build there. So those of you who haven't built a pillar of light before, I'm going to lead you to project your deepest intentions for the divine masculine and feminine, for our grandmothers and grandfathers, for our mothers and fathers, for ourselves, for our children, our sons and daughters, for all of the kids and all of humanity. We build this pillar to help bring peace, between the two things that ought to be one. And so let's give a really deep chance for that light to move through us. Consider your intentions. Let's go to this lake. It's lovely, beautiful, huge lake out in Africa. Let's stand around. We're going to stand together, many hundreds of people who will listen to this and who have been listening. If we imagine each other that's using the third eye, we can imagine standing around this beautiful lake. And we're going to build it at the center of the lake. So let's start with the foundation. We're going to project light from the gut together into the center. And so the quality of light that wants to come through from the gut is that divine wisdom and knowledge. That divine wisdom and knowledge is incredibly deep. It belongs to all of us. It's about how to live in harmony with each other, with divine feminine and masculine in harmony, with all humans in harmony with the galaxy, harmony in general. All that wisdom and knowledge is there. So we're going to project the light of true wisdom and knowledge about harmony as our foundation at the center of our pillar of light. And with our deep breath, I want you to imagine that energy and light moving from your gut to the center of our group in the middle of our lake here, Lake Victoria in Africa. So with a deep breath, we will project that light. Wow. So that light drilled really deep down into that lake, to the deep heart of the earth, all the way up and out like a gorgeous blue lotus is what I see. Every pillar is a little different. No two are the same. Amazing. So beautiful. I'm so glad. Okay, let's move into the heart now. And so we're going to project from the heart unconditional love. Unconditional love. That is so important to all of this, to the healing of these two seemingly separate parts that are actually one. The oneness of everyone, to live in that harmony, then creates that undying, unconditional love that continues to replicate, just like Grandpa Bob taught, right? So let's move that unconditional love for one another, for all the sides, all the polarities, all of the aspects of what is love. It is unconditional. And let's project that with a deep breath now. So what I saw was this beautiful pink energy moving up, and then it created a fountain-like energy. It combined into a gigantic sphere with lots of facets, millions of little facets, each one having a quality of its own, and all one. Unconditional love has many facets, and yet it's always one. Isn't that true? It looks like a beautiful crystal with all these facets, different colors, very gorgeous. Good. Now let's move into our third eye space, our crown space. We're going to project from here. And I'm being asked to ask us to let us project universal compassion. Everything has its place. Everything has its place. Everything is made of light. All light is eternal. Universal compassion. No one is left out. Nothing is left out. In understanding what is love, nothing is left out. Let's project that now into the top of our pillar of light with a deep breath. This is really neat. It looks like a big open torus. It's spinning, but it's spinning in sort of both directions. So there's a part of it that spins clockwise, the inner part, and then the outer part spins counterclockwise, yet they are one. And it draws all this amazing energy and life and into the rest of the pillar. So by understanding universal compassion, we draw in more information for us to discover unconditional love. And of course, the true foundation of all of this, that equanimity, that harmony. This pillar is meant to transmit ongoing teachings about these three aspects of our reality to the rest of humanity and to us, of course. So let us bow to this. For now, we've created a very beautiful fixture that will not end until it is finished doing its job for all of us. It will remain there. Good. Now let us cut off our own will from this so it can be its own thing. And if you want to add more intentions as you go along, it'll be there for you. It'll be there for you to add your intentions to if you like. So we cut it off. We ask to then cut off our attachments, our physical attachments to this from the third eye, from the heart, and from the gut with a deep breath. Now we can enjoy it for what it is, transmitting all of that love that it's meant to, all that universal compassion and harmony, so that we can be building bridges between each other, between the shadow and light within, and bring it all into oneness. That's the job. That's why being human is so beautiful. I love you too. We will talk again next month. I don't have my phone with me. At the end of the month, usually we'll have our next circle call. Come join me on next Sunday. I've got two things going on. I'm going to do a teaching about this mapping technique that will help you create real change in every aspect of your life. It's a universal mapping technique that will really help you make sense of the next steps for yourself. And then later that day, I'm going to do a talk about human history. And I'm going to include talking about other beings as well. So that'll be fun, because I love talking about that. And I know you'll want to chime in with your questions and such. And so look forward to those two webinars being available. The first one will be 47, the second will be 11. I'll make it really affordable so we can all join in. And on November 1st, join me with Lori Spagna. We're going to talk together on this YouTube channel if you want to come on to the YouTube, or you'll get access to that webinar for free, no cost. And then on Halloween itself, I have a little chat with Grace on, she's called Grace with Glory, a little radio show. And then look for a podcast coming out that I'd pre-recorded with my friend David Brower. And we had a good time talking about gratitude and how to shift those negative programs and negative self-talk deep within your own mind. And I have a fast way. I like fast ways. I don't know about you, but I like it when it's fast. Good. All right. I love all of you. Namaste. I really do enjoy doing this work with you. Thank you for your questions, your openness, your vulnerability, and just being you and doing what you've been doing. Thank you for working so hard and being so willing to keep trying. Good job. Good job. Don't give up. Don't give up. We've got your back. There are people on this planet. We see you. We hear you. We love you with no conditions. Yes, and definitely you'll receive an email with all the events and everything. Make sure and put my email into your contacts so it doesn't go to spam. It's Elizabeth@seerandscientist.com. And I hope that we'll connect then. I can't wait. We're going to have lots of fun this next week. Very good. Namaste, my friends. We will talk to you soon. So many blessings to you. So many blessings. And I love you.